Let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Long Shadow. Wade Morgan had learned to sleep anywhere: burning deserts, freezing mountains, the belly of a transport plane at 30,000 feet. But tonight, in a firebase outside Kandahar, sleep wouldn't come. He stared at the corrugated metal ceiling of his quarters, listening to the distant rumble of generators and the occasional crack of gunfire from the perimeter. 15 years with the Navy SEALs had taught him to trust his instincts. Something was wrong. The feeling had started 3 months ago, right after his ex-wife Michelle remarried. Video calls with his daughter Sophia had become different. She smiled less. Her eyes darted off-screen. She asked fewer questions about when he'd come home, as if she'd stopped hoping. Wade sat up and checked his watch. 0347 hours. Back in Virginia, it would be evening. He opened his laptop and scrolled through the last few messages from Sophia. Short. Distant. "Everything's fine, Dad. School's good. Yes, Shane's nice to me. Shane Monroe." The man had swept into Michelle's life 6 months after the divorce papers were signed. A regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, according to his LinkedIn profile. 42 years old, never married, no kids. Wade had run a background check. Nothing criminal, but something about the man's smile and the wedding photos had set off alarm bells. "Still stalking your ex's new husband?" Greg Giles appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. His teammate and best friend for a decade, Greg knew Wade better than anyone. "Just keeping tabs on my daughter's environment," Wade said, accepting the coffee. "She's 14, man. Probably just teenager stuff." Greg sat on the adjacent bunk. "How much longer on this rotation?" 3 weeks. Then 30 days leave. Wade rubbed his face. "I'm thinking of fighting for full custody when I get back. Michelle won't make that easy. She never does." What Wade didn't say was that Michelle Shepard, now Michelle Monroe, had always been more interested in appearances than substance. She'd loved being married to a Navy SEAL when it meant respect at officers' wives' clubs and sympathy when he deployed. But when the reality of single parenting during his absences became too real, when the glamour faded into lonely nights and worried days, she'd filed for divorce. He'd never blamed her for wanting a normal life. He blamed her for using Sophia as a weapon, making his daughter feel guilty for loving him, scheduling activities during his visitation weekends, moving 90 miles away to make regular contact harder. But remarrying within a year? To a man Sophia barely knew? That was Michelle prioritizing her own happiness over their daughter's stability. Wade's phone buzzed. A message notification. He glanced at the screen and his heart stopped. Video message from Sophia Morgan. "I'll catch you at morning brief," Greg said, reading Wade's expression and leaving quietly. Wade's hand trembled as he clicked the notification. The video player opened. Sophia appeared on screen, and everything inside him went cold. She was standing in Shane's basement rec room. He recognized the leather furniture and pool table from a virtual house tour Michelle had forced him to sit through. But Sophia wasn't alone. 3 men sprawled on the couches, beer bottles littering the coffee table. His daughter wore only a tank top and shorts that were too small, her arms wrapped around herself. "Daddy," her voice cracked. "Shane's friends are here. They're making me serve them alcohol." She held up an empty bottle with shaking hands. "Mom's upstairs laughing. They said when you die overseas, I'm theirs to train. For when I'm older." One of the men, heavy set, balding, laughed off camera. "Hey, sweetheart, bring me another beer. And lose the shorts this time, like Shane promised." The video cut off. Wade stared at the black screen. His coffee cup hit the floor. Coffee spread across the concrete like blood. Every cell in his body screamed. 15 years of combat experience, of controlled aggression, of channeling violence into precision, all of it evaporated in an instant. His vision tunneled. His hands clenched into fists so tight his knuckles went white. Then, just as suddenly, the rage crystallized into something colder. Sharper. He checked the timestamp. The video had been sent 47 minutes ago. He opened his secure communications app and typed a message to his commanding officer. "Family emergency. Daughter in immediate danger. Requesting emergency leave. Will provide details." The reply came back within 2 minutes. "Granted. Transport to Bagram in 90 minutes. You'll catch the first rotator to Conus. Details to follow." Wade began packing his gear with mechanical precision. Weapons, check. Documents, check. His personal go bag with civilian clothes and emergency cash, check. Greg returned. What happened? Wade showed him the video without speaking. Greg watched it once, his jaw tightening. Jesus Christ, Wade. I need you to do something for me. Wade pulled up a file on his laptop. I've been keeping records. Michelle's boyfriend, Shane Monroe. These are his known associates. He pulled up social media profiles. I need everything. Where they work, where they drink, who they owe money to, where their kids go to school. Everything. You're going to kill them. It wasn't a question. No. Wade's voice was ice. I'm going to make them wish I had. Chapter 2. The Homecoming. 31 hours after receiving Sophia's video, Wade Morgan stood in the parking lot of an extended stay hotel in Richmond, Virginia. He'd landed at Norfolk, rented a nondescript Toyota Camry, and driven 90 miles north to the suburb where Michelle now lived with Shane Monroe. He hadn't slept on the flights. Instead, he'd reviewed the intelligence Greg had already started compiling. Shane Monroe, Regional Sales Manager, Medico-Pharmaceutical. Income, $127,000 per year. Married Michelle 6 months ago. 2 DUIs in his 20s, both pleaded down. Member of a local businessmen's club that was really just an excuse to drink and play poker every Thursday. Johnny Zamora, Shane's college roommate. Owned a failing car dealership. Divorced twice. $47,000 in gambling debts. Hector Jefferson, met Shane at the businessmen's club. Commercial real estate agent. Previously fired from a teaching position for inappropriate conduct with students. No charges filed, but the school district paid a settlement to a family. Guy Hastings, Shane's supervisor at Medico. Married with 2 teenage daughters of his own. Clean record, which made his presence in that basement even more disturbing. Wade had studied their faces, memorized their addresses, mapped their routines. Greg had worked fast, too fast for official channels. He'd called in favors from agency contacts, tapped into databases that didn't officially exist. But before Wade could move against them, he needed to secure Sophia. He called his daughter's cell phone. It rang 6 times before she answered. Hello. Her voice was small, frightened. Sophie girl, it's Dad. Dad. A pause. You're still overseas. I'm in Richmond. At the extended stay on Broad Street. Can you get away from the house? Mom took my car keys. Shane said I'm grounded until I adjust my attitude. Wade's jaw clenched. Where are you right now? My room. Shane's at work. Mom's at yoga. Good. Listen carefully. In your closet, top shelf, left side, there's a shoebox with your old Build-A-Bear stuff. I hid something there last Christmas. Do you remember? Sophia was quiet for a moment. Wade heard movement, then a soft gasp. The emergency phone. You said if I ever needed to call you, and Mom took my phone. Exactly. That phone is untraceable and fully charged. Keep it hidden. I also put $500 cash in there. Tonight, can you get to the 7-Eleven on Thompson Road? I can walk there. It's like 10 minutes. What time does Shane get home? Usually around 7. I'll pick you up at the 7-Eleven at 6:30. Pack a bag. Essentials only, nothing that will be obviously missing. Can you do that? Dad, what's happening? Are you taking me away? Wade's voice softened. Yes, sweetheart. I saw the video you sent. I'm so proud of you for reaching out. You're safe now. I promise. Sophia started crying. I'm sorry, I didn't know what to do. Mom said I was overreacting, that Shane's friends were just joking around. But they... Sophie, listen to me. None of this is your fault. Not one bit. Your mom should have protected you. Shane should have protected you. They didn't. But I'm here now. Okay. She sniffled. 6:30. I'll be there. Wear layers. Bring your passport and birth certificate if you can find them. And Sophie, don't tell anyone about this call. Not your mom, not Shane, not your friends. Nobody. I won't. I love you, Dad. I love you too, baby girl. Wade ended the call and sat in the Camry, forcing himself to breathe. The easy part was done. Getting Sophia to safety was paramount. Everything else could wait. But not for long. At exactly 6:28 p.m., Wade pulled into the 7-Eleven parking lot. Sophia stood near the entrance, wearing a hoodie and jeans, a backpack over her shoulders. She looked thin, tired, older than 14. She saw the Camry and ran to it, yanking open the passenger door and throwing herself inside. Go, go, go. Wade pulled out smoothly, checking his mirrors. No pursuit. You okay? Yeah. Mom got home right after I left. She was on the phone with Shane, complaining about her yoga instructor. Sophia laughed bitterly. She didn't even notice I was gone. They drove in silence for several minutes. Wade kept to side roads, avoiding main thoroughfares and traffic cameras. Finally, Sophia spoke. Are we going to your apartment in Virginia Beach? No. Too obvious. I have a friend who owes me a favor. We'll stay at his place for a few days while I make arrangements. Arrangements for what? Wade glanced at his daughter. She deserved the truth. Legal arrangements. Emergency custody. I'm also going to make sure Shane and his friends never bother you, or any other child, again. Sophia looked out the window. They didn't actually touch me. Not like that. But the way they looked at me. The things they said. And Mom she acted like I was being dramatic. Like I should be grateful Shane was helping me learn to be social. Did Shane? Wade couldn't finish the question. He never touched me either. But he watched. He encouraged them. He told Johnny it was fine to ask me to sit on his lap. He told Hector I needed to learn how to please men if I wanted to be successful. She wiped her eyes. Is that normal? Mom said lots of families are affectionate like that. No, Sophie. That's not normal. That's called grooming. They were testing boundaries, seeing what they could get away with. Wade's hands tightened on the steering wheel. How long has this been going on? About 3 weeks. Right after Shane's boss guy came over for dinner and said I was growing up beautifully. Shane started inviting friends over on Thursday nights, Mom's yoga night. He said I should practice my hosting skills. 3 weeks. Wade had been overseas for 3 months, and this had been happening for 3 weeks. They drove to a small house in Petersburg, 40 miles south. Greg's cousin Alberto Cowan was a retired Marine who asked no questions and offered the guest bedroom without hesitation. Stay as long as you need, Alberto said, showing Sophia to her room. There's a deadbolt on the inside of the door. Use it. Nobody comes in without your permission. After Sophia went to bed, Wade sat with Alberto in the kitchen. I need to make some calls, Wade said. Legal stuff. And I need to handle some business back in Richmond. Alberto poured them both whiskey. The kind of business that requires an alibi? No. The kind that requires documentation. Wade pulled out his laptop. I'm doing this the right way. Mostly. Wade smiled without humor. I'll color inside the lines. But I get to choose the colors. Chapter 3. The Investigation. The next morning, Wade made 3 calls. First, to his attorney, a former JAG officer who specialized in military family law. I need emergency custody of my daughter. I have evidence of child endangerment. Second, to Child Protective Services. I want to report a case involving a 14-year-old girl being exploited by her stepfather and his associates. Third, to an old friend from his pre-SEAL days. Ken Rogers had washed out of BUD/S, but gone on to become a private investigator in the civilian world. I need surveillance. For targets. I need everything. Patterns, habits, secrets, leverage. And Ken? Time is a factor. By noon, Wade had filed an emergency custody motion. By 2 p.m., a CPS investigator named Gloria Kennedy had taken Sophia's statement and confiscated the video evidence. By evening, Ken had already begun following Shane Monroe. Your ex-husband is a creature of habit, Ken reported via encrypted call. Leaves work at 5:15, stops at the same bar, Bradley's Tavern, 3 nights a week. Thursday nights, he goes home early. That's when his buddies come over. Thursday night is tomorrow, Wade noted. Yep. I've got eyes on Johnny Zamora and Hector Jefferson too. Zamora's in deep with a lone shark named Raoul Whalen. We're talking broken kneecap territory. Jefferson's been hanging around a high school. Not the one he used to teach at, but close. Got some photos that would interest his parole officer if he had one. What about Guy Hastings? The boss? Clean on the surface. But I pulled his travel records. Lot of trips to Southeast Asia. Thailand, Cambodia, Philippines. Always solo. Never for more than a week. I've got a buddy in Bangkok who might be able to tell us what he was doing there. Wade felt the pieces coming together. Keep digging. I want to know everything. Gloria Kennedy called that evening. Mr. Morgan, I've reviewed the evidence. We're opening a formal investigation. I'll be conducting home visits and interviews with your ex-wife and her husband. What about criminal charges? That's up to the Commonwealth's attorney. But based on what I've seen, there's definitely grounds for a child endangerment investigation. The video shows clear inappropriate behavior. How long until the hearing? Emergency custody hearing is scheduled for Friday morning. Can you and your daughter be there? We'll be there. Thursday night, Wade left Sophia with Alberto and drove back to Richmond. He parked 3 blocks from Shane and Michelle's house. A cookie-cutter colonial in a development where every lawn looked identical. Ken Rogers was already in position, sitting in a plumber's van with tinted windows. Wade slipped into the passenger seat. "They're all here," Ken said, pointing to a monitor showing multiple camera feeds. "Shane, Johnny, Hector, and Guy. They started arriving around 7. Your ex-wife left for yoga at 7:15. Wade watched the screens. Shane's basement was visible through a window well. The 4 men sat around playing poker, drinking beer, laughing. "Where's Sophia in all this?" Ken asked. "Safe. That's all that matters." Wade took out his phone and started recording the scene. But they don't know that yet. At 8:30 p.m., Shane checked his phone and frowned. He said something to his friends and headed upstairs. Through another camera angle, they could see him calling someone, probably Michelle, asking where Sophia was. 10 minutes later, Shane came back downstairs, visibly agitated. The poker game broke up. Guy Hastings left first, then Hector, then Johnny. Wade's phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello? Wade." Michelle's voice was shrill. "Where's Sophia? She's not home, and she's not answering her phone." "She's with me." "You kidnapped my daughter?" "I extracted my daughter from a dangerous situation." "There's a difference." "You have no right." "I have every right. I'm her father, and you're going to find out just how serious I am about protecting her when we see you in court tomorrow." Michelle's tone changed, became calculating. "Wade, let's be reasonable. Whatever Sophia told you, she's exaggerating. You know how dramatic teenage girls can be. I saw the video, Michelle. I saw grown men telling my 14-year-old daughter to serve them alcohol in her underwear. I heard them tell her she'd be theirs when I died. And you were upstairs laughing." Silence. "That's not." Shane's friends were joking. "Sophia took it the wrong way." "Then you can explain that to CPS tomorrow. And to the judge. And to the police." Wade hung up. Ken whistled low. "You're burning bridges. Some bridges need to burn." Wade watched as Shane's house erupted in activity. Lights turned on. Shane came outside, got in his car, and drove away, probably to look for Sophia. "What now?" Ken asked. "Now we make sure tomorrow goes smoothly. And then we move to phase 2. Which is?" Wade smiled. "Justice. The legal kind first. Then the other kind." Chapter 4. The Courtroom. Friday morning, the emergency custody hearing took place in Richmond Circuit Court. Wade wore his dress blues, service ribbons, and trident gleaming. Sophia sat beside him in a modest dress, her hands folded in her lap. Michelle and Shane arrived with their attorney, a slick corporate lawyer named Edward Branch who clearly charged by the hour. Michelle looked composed, hair perfect, makeup flawless. Shane wore an expensive suit and an expression of wounded innocence. Judge Meredith Bennett reviewed the case file with narrowed eyes. She was in her 50s, a former prosecutor with a reputation for no-nonsense rulings. "Mr. Branch, I've reviewed the evidence submitted by the petitioner. Does your client have a response to the video in question?" Edward Branch stood. "Your Honor, the video has been taken completely out of context. Mr. Monroe and his friends were engaged in harmless banter. The child misinterpreted." "The child has a name," Judge Bennett interrupted. "And she's sitting right there. Please address her with respect." Branch cleared his throat. Sophia misinterpreted casual conversation as something more sinister. "Mr. Monroe has been nothing but a devoted stepfather." "Your Honor," Wade's attorney, a sharp woman named Gloria Kennedy's colleague from the prosecutor's office, stood up. "We have corroborating evidence beyond the video." CPS investigator Gloria Kennedy conducted an interview with Sophia Morgan yesterday. Her testimony is consistent and detailed. Furthermore, we've uncovered information about one of the men in the video, Hector Jefferson, who was previously dismissed from a teaching position for inappropriate conduct with minors. Shane's lawyer looked surprised. "That was a misunderstanding, never proven." "It was a settlement," Judge Bennett corrected, flipping through documents. "Paid by the school district to avoid a lawsuit." "That's in the record, Mr. Branch." The hearing lasted 2 hours. Sophia was asked to testify. Wade watched his daughter sit in the witness box, small and brave, recounting everything in a steady voice. Michelle cried, big, performative tears. Shane sat stone-faced. Finally, Judge Bennett rendered her decision. "I'm granting temporary emergency custody to Wade Morgan, effective immediately. Sophia will reside with her father pending a full custody hearing in 30 days. Michelle Morgan will have supervised visitation only, and Shane Monroe is not to have any contact with the minor child. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full CPS investigation. Michelle gasped. Shane's jaw clenched. Wade felt Sophia's hand slip into his and squeeze tight. Outside the courtroom, Michelle cornered Wade in the hallway. You bastard. You turned my daughter against me. I didn't have to turn her against you, Michelle. You did that yourself when you chose your husband's poker buddies over her safety. Shane would never. Shane stood in that basement and watched his friends sexually harass our daughter. He encouraged it. He orchestrated it. And you let it happen. Michelle's perfect composure cracked. I didn't know it was that bad. I thought they were just being friendly. You weren't ignorant, Michelle. You were complicit. Wade started to walk away, then turned back. And here's what's going to happen next. Shane and his friends are going to be investigated. Their lives are going to be turned inside out. And when it's over, you're going to have to decide. Are you going to stand by the man who endangered our daughter, or are you going to do the right thing? He didn't wait for an answer. Chapter 5, The Unraveling. Ken Rogers called Wade that evening with news. The dominoes are starting to fall. Guy Hastings was called into an emergency meeting with Medico Pharmaceuticals' HR department. Someone sent them an anonymous tip about his Thailand trips, along with some very interesting photos from those trips. What kind of photos? The kind that show a married man with teenage girls in Pattaya. Nothing explicitly illegal in the photos themselves, but enough to raise serious questions. Medico's stock just took a hit from a sexual harassment scandal last year. They're not taking chances. Hastings is on administrative leave pending investigation. Wade absorbed this. He hadn't sent those photos, which meant someone else was playing the same game. Who sent the tip? Unknown. But whoever it is, they're good. Used a VPN, throwaway email, the whole 9 yards. The next morning, Johnny Zamora was arrested for failure to appear on an outstanding warrant. Apparently, his gambling debts had led to some bounced checks that had turned into fraud charges. The warrant had been issued 3 months ago, but only now was being actively enforced. Wade made a call to an old friend in the Richmond PD. Let me guess, someone reminded you that warrant existed? Detective Kelvin Coleman laughed. You know I can't discuss active investigations, Wade. But hypothetically, if someone were to provide information about multiple suspects in a child endangerment case, we might prioritize certain warrants. Hypothetically. Hector Jefferson was next. Ken's surveillance had captured him loitering outside a high school, taking photos of teenage girls during cheerleading practice. Ken accidentally left those photos where a concerned parent might find them. That parent called the police. Jefferson found himself being questioned about his activities, and suddenly his past dismissal from teaching was very relevant again, which left Shane Monroe. Wade met with Gloria Kennedy from CPS. What's the status of the investigation? We've interviewed the mother and stepfather separately. Mrs. Monroe is complicated. She admits the poker nights happened, admits her daughter was present, but claims she didn't know about the inappropriate comments. She seems genuinely shocked by the video. Shocked that it was recorded, maybe. Gloria nodded grimly. Mr. Monroe, on the other hand, is defiant. Claims it's all a misunderstanding, that you're manipulating your daughter against him, that this is revenge for the divorce. What do you think? I think the video speaks for itself. I've recommended the case be referred to the Commonwealth's attorney for criminal charges. Child endangerment, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, possibly more depending on what else we uncover. How long until charges are filed? Could be weeks. Could be months. The system moves slowly. Gloria studied Wade's face. But you already knew that, didn't you? I do. Which is why I'm working on a parallel track. Mr. Morgan, I hope you're not planning anything that could jeopardize the legal case. I'm not planning anything illegal, if that's what you're asking. That's not quite the same thing. Wade smiled. No, it's not. That night, Wade had dinner with Sophia and Alberto. His daughter was slowly coming back to life, smiling more, eating better, sleeping without nightmares. Dad? She asked over spaghetti. What's going to happen to Shane? He's going to be investigated. If the prosecutors do their job, he'll be charged with crimes related to what happened to you. And if they don't, Wade met his daughter's eyes. Then I'll make sure he faces consequences anyway. What kind of consequences? Alberto cleared his throat. How about we talk about school instead? I've been looking into good schools in Virginia Beach, near your dad's place. There's an excellent high school with a strong science program. Sophia brightened. Really? I want to study marine biology. As they discussed schools and new beginnings, Wade's phone buzzed with a message from Ken. Monroe just met with a lawyer. Criminal defense specialist. He knows charges are coming. Good. Let him sweat. Chapter 6. The Trap. 2 weeks after the custody hearing, Shane Monroe was still free. Guy Hastings had been fired from Medico, but not charged with any crimes. Johnny Zamora made bail. Hector Jefferson hired a lawyer and stopped showing up at high schools. Wade was done waiting. He called a meeting with Ken Rogers at a diner outside Richmond. I need you to do something for me. It's going to be technically legal, but ethically questionable. Ken grinned. My favorite kind of job. Shane Monroe has a storage unit. I need to know what's in it. How do you know he has a storage unit? Michelle mentioned it during the divorce proceedings. He stores old sales materials there, supposedly. But I'm betting there's more. Breaking into a storage unit is illegal, Wade. I know. That's why we're not going to break in. We're going to social engineer our way in. Ken raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. 3 days later, Ken showed up at the storage facility wearing a Medico pharmaceutical polo shirt and carrying a clipboard. He told the manager that Mr. Monroe had been fired and the company needed to retrieve their property from his unit. I'll need authorization, the manager said. Ken produced a perfectly forged letter on Medico letterhead, complete with a convincing signature from HR. The manager unlocked Unit 247. Inside, among boxes of old sales brochures and promotional materials, Ken found something interesting. An old laptop, an external hard drive, and a shoebox full of Polaroid photos from the 1990s. The photos showed teenage girls at parties, clearly intoxicated, in compromising positions. Shane was in several of the photos, younger but recognizable. Ken photographed everything with a high-resolution camera, then left the unit exactly as he'd found it. This is leverage, Ken said, showing Wade the photos later. Shane's been doing this for decades. Wade felt cold rage settle in his chest. He's a predator. He married Michelle to get access to Sophia. That's my read too. The question is, what do we do with this? Wade thought for a long moment. We can't use it in court, illegally obtained evidence. But we can use it for other purposes, such as insurance, deterrence, and justice. Wade had Ken make multiple copies of everything on encrypted drives. Then he made a call to Michelle. We need to talk. In person. Without Shane. I don't think that's a good idea. I have information about your husband that you need to see. It's about his past. Before you. Michelle was silent for a long moment. Fine. Tomorrow. The Starbucks on Broad Street. Noon. Michelle looked like she hadn't been sleeping well. Her makeup couldn't quite hide the dark circles, and her designer clothes hung differently, as if she'd lost weight. Wade slid an envelope across the table. Open it. Inside were printouts of the Polaroids. Michelle's hands shook as she looked through them. Where did you get these? Does it matter? What matters is that Shane has been doing this for 30 years. He's not a good man who made a mistake, Michelle. He's a predator who saw an opportunity when he met you. You're lying. You fabricated these. Check the dates on the Polaroids. Check the backgrounds. One of those photos was taken at UVA in 1994, Shane's freshman year. I verified it with old yearbooks. That girl in the photo was 15. Her parents filed a police report that was quietly dropped when Shane's family paid them off. Michelle looked like she might vomit. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand what you brought into our daughter's life. I want you to understand that when you chose Shane over Sophia's safety, you weren't just making a parenting mistake. You were putting her in the path of a sexual predator. I didn't know. You should have known. You should have questioned why a successful 42-year-old man had never been married. You should have wondered why he was so eager to have your teenage daughter around his friends. You should have listened when Sophia tried to tell you something was wrong. Michelle started crying. Real tears this time, not performative ones. What do you want from me? I want you to divorce Shane. I want you to cooperate with the CPS investigation. And I want you to testify against him if criminal charges are filed. He'll destroy me. Financially, socially. He's going to be destroyed first. Trust me on that. The only question is whether you go down with him or whether you do the right thing and protect our daughter. Michelle wiped her eyes. I didn't want this. I just wanted a normal life. A husband who came home every night. Someone stable. You wanted stability more than you wanted truth. And it almost cost Sophia everything. Wade stood to leave, then paused. One more thing. I'm going to make sure Shane and his friends pay for what they did. I'm going to make sure they never have the opportunity to hurt another child. You can help me do that the legal way, or you can stand aside while I do it my way. But it's going to happen either way. He walked out, leaving Michelle alone with the photos and her choices. Chapter 7. The Confession. 2 days after Wade's meeting with Michelle, Shane Monroe was arrested. The charges: child endangerment, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and possession of child sexual abuse material. The last charge came after an anonymous tip led police to execute a search warrant on Shane's storage unit, where they discovered the laptop and hard drive Ken had photographed. Guy Hastings was arrested the same day on charges related to his activities in Thailand. Federal charges, trafficking related. His travel records and financial transactions told a damning story. Johnny Zamora, facing serious fraud charges and unable to make bail a second time, agreed to testify against Shane in exchange for a reduced sentence. Hector Jefferson fled the state. He was arrested 2 weeks later in Florida. Michelle filed for divorce and moved into a rental apartment. She called Wade. "I'm testifying for the prosecution," she said. "My lawyer says I might face charges too. Neglect, failure to protect. But I'm doing it anyway. That's the right thing to do. I'm sorry, Wade. For everything. For not believing Sophia. For not protecting her. For being so blind. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to her. She won't take my calls. Then write her a letter. And keep writing until she's ready to read them. It might take years. It might never happen. But you owe her the effort." Michelle was quiet for a long moment. "What you did? Exposing Shane, bringing all this to light. How did you know it would work?" "I didn't. But I knew I had to try. That's what fathers do. We protect our children, no matter the cost." Shane Monroe's trial was set for 6 months later. But Wade wasn't satisfied with just the legal proceedings. He wanted Shane to understand, viscerally, what it felt like to be powerless and afraid. He enlisted Ken's help one more time. "I need you to facilitate a meeting. Shane and me. Somewhere private. Wade, if you're planning what I think you're planning. I'm not going to kill him. I'm not even going to touch him. I just want to talk." Ken sighed. "Okay, but I'm watching from a distance. Just in case." The meeting took place in an abandoned warehouse in South Richmond, the kind of place where drug deals happened and people didn't ask questions. Shane arrived first, lured by an anonymous message claiming to have information that could help his case. Wade stepped out of the shadows. Shane's face went white. "You? Me?" Shane backed toward the door. "This is entrapment. Whatever you're planning, it won't hold up in court." "I'm not planning anything for court, Shane. This is just between us. I'm not saying anything without my lawyer." "That's fine. You don't have to say anything. Just listen." Wade pulled up a chair and sat down, relaxed, in control. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to prison. Federal charges plus state charges? You're looking at 20 years minimum. And in prison, there's a hierarchy. You know what happens to people who hurt kids?" Shane's hands trembled. "I never touched her. I never. You groomed her. You created an environment where grown men sexualized a 14-year-old child. You told her it was normal. You told her she needed to learn how to please men. That's not just joking around, Shane. That's predatory behavior. And the jury is going to see all of it. The videos, the photos from your storage unit, the testimony from Michelle, from Sophia, from your buddy Johnny, who's already flipped on you. What do you want from me? I want you to understand something. For 30 years, you've gotten away with hurting young girls. Your family's money protected you. Your charm protected you. Your ability to manipulate people protected you. But it's over now. You came after my daughter, and you made the biggest mistake of your life." Shane's bravado collapsed. He sank into a chair, head in his hands. "I have a problem. I know I have a problem. I've tried to stop. I don't care about your excuses. I don't care about your childhood trauma or your addiction or whatever rationalization you've built for yourself. All I care about is that you never have the opportunity to hurt another child. Are you going to kill me?" Wade laughed without humor. "No. Death would be too easy. You're going to live a long life, Shane. In a 6x8 cell. And every day, you're going to remember the choices you made. Every day, you're going to wonder if today's the day someone in prison finds out what you did and decides to deliver their own justice. That fear, that powerlessness, that's what you put Sophia through. So now you get to experience it yourself." Wade stood and walked to the door. "Oh, and one more thing. I made copies of everything from your storage unit. Multiple copies, stored in multiple locations. If anything happens to me, to Sophia, or to anyone else in my family, those copies go to everyone. Every news outlet, every social media platform, every person you've ever known. Your parents, your old fraternity brothers, everyone. And the photos from Thailand that got Guy Hastings arrested? Those were just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. So do yourself a favor. Take the plea deal when they offer it. Because if you force Sophia to testify at trial, if you make her relive any of this in public, I will make sure every single disgusting detail of your life becomes public knowledge. Shane looked up, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me. Save it for the judge. Wade walked out, leaving Shane alone in the darkness. Chapter 8. The Fallout. Over the next 3 months, the case against Shane Monroe and his associates built momentum. Guy Hastings pleaded guilty to federal charges and received 15 years in prison. Johnny Zamora testified against Shane in exchange for a sentence of 3 years for fraud. Hector Jefferson fought extradition from Florida and lost. He was awaiting trial on multiple charges. Shane's attorney approached the prosecutor with a plea deal. Shane would plead guilty to all charges in exchange for 18 years instead of the potential 25 he faced at trial. The prosecutor consulted with Wade and Sophia. It's your decision, Wade told his daughter. You can testify at trial if you want. Make him face you in court, or we can accept the plea and move on. Sophia thought about it for a long time. I don't want to see him again. I don't want to give him any more of my time or energy. If he's going to prison either way, I want to accept the plea. You're sure? I'm sure. Shane Monroe was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. At his sentencing hearing, Sophia read a victim impact statement. You try to make me feel like I was the problem, she said, her voice steady. You try to make me think it was normal for grown men to look at me that way, to talk to me that way. You try to break something inside me. But you failed. Because my father taught me that I'm worth protecting, that I deserve to be safe, that I don't have to accept anyone's abuse. You're going to prison for what you did to me. And I'm going to live an amazing life and never think about you again. The courtroom erupted in applause. The judge didn't even try to stop it. Michelle's situation was more complicated. The Commonwealth's attorney considered charging her with child neglect, but ultimately decided that her cooperation and testimony against Shane warranted leniency. She was ordered to complete parenting classes and therapy. Her relationship with Sophia remained fractured. Wade facilitated supervised calls, but Sophia kept them brief and distant. I'm not ready to forgive her, Sophia told Wade. Maybe someday, but not now. That's okay. Forgiveness is something you do for yourself, not for the other person. When you're ready, you'll know. 6 months after Shane's sentencing, Wade retired from the Navy SEALs. 15 years of service was enough. He'd seen and done things that would haunt him forever, but none of it compared to the terror of almost losing his daughter. He used his military benefits to enroll in college, criminal justice degree, with the goal of becoming an advocate for children in similar situations. Sophia thrived in her new school in Virginia Beach. She joined the swim team, made new friends, started seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma recovery. Slowly, the scared, quiet girl from that first night at the 7-Eleven transformed back into the vibrant, confident person she'd been before Shane entered her life. Dad? She asked one evening over dinner. Do you ever regret how you handled everything? Like, do you wish you'd just let the legal system deal with it without getting so involved? Wade considered the question. No. The legal system is important, but it's not always enough. Sometimes you have to fight for justice yourself. Sometimes you have to be willing to bend the rules to protect the people you love. But you didn't break the rules. You just pushed them. Exactly. I used every advantage I had, my training, my connections, my resources, to make sure Shane and his friends faced consequences. Was it perfect? No. Was it necessary? Absolutely. Do you think they're suffering in prison? I hope so. Not because I'm cruel, but because they need to understand that actions have consequences. They spent years hurting people without facing any accountability. Now they are. Sophia nodded. Good. They deserve it. Chapter 9. New Beginnings. 1 year after Sophia's rescue, Wade received a letter from Shane Monroe. It had been forwarded through Shane's attorney. Federal inmates weren't allowed direct contact with victims. Wade almost threw it away without reading it. But something made him open it. Wade, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that you were right about everything. Prison is hell. Every day is a reminder of what I did, what I became. I'm in protective custody because general population isn't safe for people like me. I sit in a cell for 23 hours a day and think about all the lives I damaged. I've been working with a psychiatrist here. I've started to understand the patterns, the rationalizations, the ways I justified my behavior. None of it excuses what I did. Nothing can. I'm writing this because I heard Sophia is doing well. I heard she's on the swim team, that she's thriving. That's because of you. You saved her from me. You saved her from the path I was leading her down. I know I'll die in here. 18 years at my age, with my health problems, means I'll never see the outside world again. That's what I deserve. Tell Sophia I'm sorry. Tell her she was right to send that video, right to trust you, right to speak up. Tell her that she's stronger than I ever gave her credit for. Tell her that evil doesn't always win. Shane. Wade read the letter twice, then set it on fire and watched it burn. Some apologies didn't deserve acknowledgement. 2 years after the trial, Wade graduated with his degree in criminal justice. He immediately went to work for a nonprofit organization that helped military families dealing with child abuse cases. His first case involved another deployed service member whose ex-spouse's new partner was abusing their child. Wade walked them through the process he'd navigated himself, the legal steps, the emotional support, the strategic thinking required to protect a child from within the system. Sophia was 16 now, preparing for her junior year of high school. She'd reconnected with Michelle on a limited basis, supervised visits, occasional phone calls. The relationship would never be what it was, but it was something. You know what I've been thinking about? Sophia said one evening as they sat on the beach near their apartment, watching the sunset. What's that? How many other kids are in the situation I was in? How many of them don't have a dad who's a Navy SEAL who can swoop in and save them? Wade nodded. A lot. Too many. I want to do something about that. When I'm older, I want to help kids like me. You'd be amazing at that. Did you ever find out who sent those photos of Guy Hastings to his company? The ones from Thailand. Wade smiled. I have a theory, but I've never confirmed it. Was it you? Let's just say I have friends who believe in justice as much as I do. Sophia laughed. You're such a badass dad. Language. You literally told me the story about threatening Shane in an abandoned warehouse. I think I can say badass. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the waves roll in. Wade thought about the journey they'd been on, the terror, the anger, the slow climb back to normalcy. It wasn't a perfect ending. Sophia still had nightmares sometimes. Wade still woke up in cold sweats, imagining all the ways things could have gone wrong. But they'd survived. More than survived, they'd won. Dad. Sophia's voice was soft. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for coming home. Wade pulled his daughter close. Always, Sophie girl. Always. 3 years later, Wade stood in a courtroom again. But this time, he was testifying as an expert witness in a different case, a military family dealing with similar circumstances to what he and Sophia had faced. His testimony helped secure emergency custody for the child and criminal charges against the abusers. After the hearing, the father, a Marine sergeant named Marvin Hart, shook Wade's hand with tears in his eyes. You saved my daughter's life, Marvin said. I didn't know what to do, and then I found your story online, saw the work you're doing. You gave me a roadmap. You saved your daughter's life, Wade corrected. I just showed you it was possible. That evening, Wade came home to find Sophia at the kitchen table, working on college applications. She was applying to schools with strong marine biology programs, her dream since childhood, unshaken by everything she'd been through. Where's the frontrunner? Wade asked, looking over her shoulder. University of Miami. They have an amazing program, and I got an email from their swim coach. They're interested in recruiting me. That's incredible, Sophie. It's also really far from here. Wade sat down across from her. You're going to have to leave eventually. I've made peace with that. Are you sure? Because I could always go to Old Dominion, stay close. Sophia, go to Miami. Chase your dreams. I'll visit. You'll visit. We'll figure it out. He smiled. You're not a scared 14-year-old who needs protection anymore. You're a strong, capable young woman who's going to change the world. You're going to make me cry. Good. That means I'm doing my job as a dad. Later that night, after Sophia went to bed, Wade opened his laptop and checked his secure email. Greg Giles had sent an update from overseas. He was still active duty, still doing the work. Hey brother, heard you testified in the Hart case. Good work. Also wanted to let you know, Hector Jefferson got an extra 5 years added to his sentence. He tried to use contraband phones to contact minors from prison. They caught him and threw the book at him. Guy Hastings isn't doing well either. Prison medical says he's not expected to make it another year. Karma, right? Shane Monroe is apparently running Bible study groups in prison now. Claims he's found redemption. I'm sure the inmates appreciate the irony. Anyway, just wanted to update you. Your enemies are suffering. Your daughter is thriving. That's victory, man. That's what we fight for. Stay strong. Greg. Wade closed the laptop and walked to Sophia's bedroom door. It was cracked open, and he could see her sleeping peacefully, her face relaxed and content. He thought about that terrible night when he'd received her video message. The rage, the fear, the absolute certainty that he would do whatever it took to protect her. And he had. Not with violence, though he'd been prepared for that. Not with vigilante justice, though he'd been tempted. But with strategic thinking, with leveraging every resource and connection he had, with using the system against those who thought they were above it. Shane Monroe and his friends had preyed on the vulnerable, confident they would never face consequences. They'd underestimated a father's love and a SEAL's determination. They'd learned differently. Wade closed Sophia's door quietly and went to his own room. Tomorrow he had 3 new cases to review. 3 more families who needed help. 3 more children who deserved protection. The work would never end. There would always be predators, always be children who needed defending. But Wade Morgan would be there, armed with experience, resources, and an absolute unwillingness to let evil win. Some people wore capes. Some people wore combat boots. In the end, it didn't matter what you wore. What mattered was showing up when it counted. Wade had shown up for his daughter, and he'd show up for every other child who needed a defender. Because that's what heroes do. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.